Oh, dude, what's up, man?
What's up, brah? Can you hear me well?
Oh, I can hear you quite well, Zachy. How are you?
I'm doing good. Using my little Xbox mic here to speak to you hands-free.
Ah, that's quite innovative of you. I didn't even know you could do that.
The Xbox controller has the exact same port that most of the phones do for the aux.
Ah, that's very nice, Zachary. Well, speaking of Xbox, you know, I'm sure you're quite aware that as of, what's today, Wednesday? No, today's Tuesday, right?
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, today's Tuesday.
I can't remember. So yesterday, as of Monday, was the 10-year anniversary of Halo 3. My goodness, 10 years of Halo 3. How does that make you feel?
Nothing makes me feel like an old man like that.
Yeah, I know. It's insane, man.
Literally because we've kept up with like every milestone of that game, whether it was like, I literally remember being like, oh man, I can't believe it's already been 3 years since Halo came out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Freshman year of high school, it's insane.
I know. I mean, pretty much every year since like the 3-year mark, and every year me and you're like, dude, I can't believe it's been 4 years. I can't believe it's been 5 years. And I think that it means so much because that was the first game I ever played Xbox Live on, and that's like and I've been playing Halo since the origin in like whatever it was, like 2000.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I felt like in a blink of an eye it'd be 10 years, and here it is. And it's kind of sad, really, because I remember the glory days. I mean, we played at least 5 years straight, practically every night, whether it be after school or on the weekends. Even if it was online or we were all together at your house hanging out doing split screen, we played the absolute crap out of the game.
I know. That's what I was telling somebody today at work, that I have played more Halo 3 than any other video game in my entire life.
I think I'm right there with you. I mean, I've been hyped for a lot of game releases in my day. I mean, Skyrim being the most notable. I mean, I about crapped my pants for the Skyrim release, but I will never be as excited as I was for a game as I was for Halo 3. I mean, maybe someday down the road I'll be just as excited as I was for Halo 3, but this game had me losing my mind. I remember when I was a freshman in high school, my parents still wanted me to go to bed at a decent hour because you have school the next day. You need to get your sleep. Well, of course, I went to bed at my quote-unquote bedtime, but I snuck back out of bed to sneak up to my third floor and watch, I think it was on G4 at the time, the midnight release from Times Square, New York, when they were doing the countdown.
Oh my gosh.
And I watched my TV with the sound off, and my dad came up shortly after midnight. Everyone was freaking out and getting their legendary editions and stuff with the Master Chief helmet. And of course, me wishing I was there, my dad catches me. And I think he knew in that moment how much the game meant to me, that he's just like, well, when that's over, make sure you get back in bed. I was like, yes, sir. But he let me stay up and watch the rest of it because he knew just how excited I was. But you did something for the midnight release, didn't you?
So I'm going to give you my total 180 perspective on that. So we had probably 25 Xbox games, including when you could still trade in original Xbox games. So we traded in 19 games total and got like $100-something off of trade-ins, which would never happen on GameStop today.
Right.
So we traded all that in, got all that money, and then literally I had to pay like another $30 to get the Legendary Edition. Well, we waited outside for like 4 hours at our GameStop. We were in the line at our outlet mall up in Dawsonville, and I think we went to the gas station or something, and we saw that they were selling the Game Fuel, or whatever Mountain Dew came out with the like cherry flavor, and it had Halo on it. So we were like super psyched. So we were drinking that, we were hanging out, and everybody was like playing and freaking out. And they were selling gear and doing little competitions at the GameStop. And then we got it and brought it home, and we all unboxed it together. And it was a school night, you know, obviously, like
Right.
you said. But we unboxed the whole thing, opened it, and we watched the opening cutscene. And then me or my dad, I think it may have been me, we watched one of us play through like the first half of the first mission or something until the first cinematic, and then we shut it off and all went to bed because it was already like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was like a super awesome experience because, you know, that was like the first major game release. Like when I went to go get Halo 2, I think that was just like, I don't think it was really a midnight premiere. That was just like I don't know, it was kind of weird just because it was a blockbuster, but like my first experience of waiting in a line and getting something at midnight was definitely Halo 3.
I remember on launch day specifically losing my mind throughout the entire day of school because I just couldn't contain my excitement, because I knew when I got home my mom will have brought home my copy of Halo 3, and I distinctly remember going to the bus to get onto the bus to leave school at the end of the day. John and I were walking to our bus, and because we rode are the same one. And I remember a couple girls from our class, very beautiful girls. I have honestly no clue why they approached us. I mean, maybe we had a class together or something that I forgot about, but I remember them walking right up to us at the buses and going, "Hey, we're going to Starbucks in about an hour to study for a test. Do you guys want to go with us?" And any other day, I would have been leaping with joy because these girls were talking to us.
Yeah.
But I had no shame in saying, "Sorry, Halo 3's out today. We've got to go." And I was so happy that I was able to deny some of the prettiest girls in our class to hang out and study for a test, because I got to go home and play Halo 3 instead, and it was wonderful. And that evening, I think every guy in our freshman class at school was on that night in multiplayer doing custom games.
The custom games were so much fun, especially when people would make the infected zombie matches.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about on the podcast a week or two ago. We were talking about how we'd play on Sky Castle Infection with the super fast zombies with the gravity hammers.
Fan Trap?
Yeah.
Yeah, all I remember is all of us being online and being on the same, like the Sky Castle up top, and like so, we would be on the same team, but we would gravity hammer our teammates off, and they would fall and get eaten by zombies, and we thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I remember like not knowing Preston yet, and just like every time he came up the lift, like hammering him back off to the ground, and like I remember him getting mad. Like I'm pretty sure he like actually got mad.
I wouldn't put it past him back in the day. He probably was a little frustrated.
Yeah, especially because like we didn't know each other.
Yeah. It's funny to think back at those times when not all of us were like practically brothers.
Exactly. I know, it is weird. It's like,
I mean, Halo 3 really is a huge part of why I think we're such good friends, and our group entirely, because you and I hadn't known each other that long when Halo 3 came out, and that definitely played a role in us hanging out.
We had only known each other for a year, and that's what I was telling Cass earlier. Is I was like, hey, I gotta call Garrett for a little bit. Like, today's the Halo 3 anniversary. I was like, that was honestly like a major thing in mine and Garrett's friendship. Like, if that tells you anything about the game, you know, because we graduated in 11, so during like 2011, 2012, you know, whatever that was, 5 years after the game came out, me and you, when all of our friends left for college, me and you were still getting on playing that every night.
Right.
But at that point in time, we would go an entire night and only lose like a match.
Those were the glory days, like, for sure.
Dude, when me and you could get on, and like no matter what game type or how many people were on our team, me and you could get on. Either one of us were anywhere from 15 to 25 kills every single match, and we hardly lost. We were untouchable, and our chemistry, especially on a Warthog, was the most poetic thing I can ever think about.
That is the funniest thing on a Warthog of all things. We were almost always the most deadly on a Warthog, with you driving and me gunning. Even, I mean, the gameplay that's playing right now that while we're talking, I pre-recorded earlier today, and I'll admit it took me like 4 or 5 matches to get the hang of it again, because compared to modern shooters, even Halo 5 and most recently Destiny 2, which is another Bungie game, Halo 3 is just so slow. I had to like reel it back and get used to how slow it feels.
Oh, it is. It's incredibly fun. It's so weird playing a shooter that's, even to this day, still seems well developed and it looks great, but you can't sprint.
Right.
It is the funniest thing.
I'll never forget the very first multiplayer map I played on coming out of the campaign was High Ground, and that was the map I wanted to play on most because it was the map I'd seen most in the beta, I believe. That and it's called Boundless now, I believe, but it was originally called Snowbound, and I just watched hours and hours and hours of beta gameplay, the beta that was attached to the original Crackdown. My mom never let me buy Crackdown either because, oh, it's M-rated, but for some reason they let me buy Halo. Maybe I begged long enough and they let me have it. But I remember playing on High Ground, and I took my because I remember, you know, they had the theater mode for the first time in Halo, and I went into the theater mode and captured all these screenshots and video clips I had done, because I remember I threw a grenade or something and this weird glitch happened where this guy in a mongoose flew up into the air, and I thought it was the funniest thing, and it was the first time I used theater mode. And I mean, the rest is basically history, but I remember that same night on launch day, us and all of our buddies were on Sandtrap just experimenting with the elephants because we were amazed at how big the vehicles were on this map, because I'd never seen a vehicle that big really in any game before that in my history. I'd never been in a vehicle like that where there's multiple turrets and like you could have a Warthog parked inside and everything. It was amazing.
That was so much. I forgot about elephants. That was so much fun. Sweet nostalgic memories right there playing Halo 3.
Yeah. Would you say Guardian was your favorite multiplayer map? Because that's probably what my favorite was.
Oh yeah, it is a bit smaller and the aesthetic is a little dark to it, but I think the reason I liked it, and something I never understood, but I was so good on that map, and like no matter the game type or when I played, or even if I was having a totally off night where I was just getting wrecked, for some reason whenever it came to Guardian, like I couldn't lose, and I don't know why, and that's why it became my favorite map. If I knew that I landed on that, 9 times out of 10 I would win. I remember games when me and you would get thrown on there, and like we would just absolutely destroy people. It was just a tight map. You knew where all the corners were, and you knew people's tendencies, and you knew where people were going to go, and it was really easy to read what the other team was going to do. And like I said, I think that was the big thing to being good at that game, is just playing it enough to know the maps well, because all that game took was a well-placed grenade and like one clip from your assault rifle. That's like all it took. So if like you knew exactly where to bounce a grenade, what wall to throw it off of, or where to throw a sticky, the combination of that and a little burst from your assault rifle, like you could like easily get kills.
Yeah, if I had to give a top 3, I'd probably say Guardian, The Pit, and High Ground were my top 3 favorite maps from Halo 3.
Garrett, you are missing a big one that was definitely a friendship map of ours.
Is it Last Resort?
Garrett.
Hold on, let me think for a second here. It's funny because I think the reason why I can't think of it is because I've played on almost all my favorites except for a few in the gameplay that's playing right now, and I kept getting stuck on Construct, and I've always hated Construct.
We always got stuck there.
I know, I'm still, even here in 2017, 10 years later, I still get stuck there more than any other map for some reason. So let me think here for a second. There's High Ground, Guardian, Last Resort. What's the word? I know what it is. It's Zavala or something. That's from Destiny 2. Valhalla.
Yes, Valhalla.
Yeah, okay, because I kept wanting to call it all the other names they've had for it in like Halo 4 and 5 and everything.
Yes, so it was Valhalla. Did you already say The Pit, or is that what Last Resort is?
Yeah, I said The Pit, yeah. Last Resort was the remastered version of, now I can't even think of the one from Halo 2. Zanzibar, that's what it was, with the windmill in the middle.
Oh, right. Yes, you're right. Last Resort was one of my favorites. Valhalla and The Pit were also fantastic ones.
It's been so long since I've consistently played the game, but I know we can recognize the ones that were our favorites. But I know I've said this a million times on the podcast too, but I still consider Halo 3 to be the end of Master Chief's story, and everything else afterwards is just glorified fan fiction, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the more I've gone through the, 4 and 5, I'm like, they're good, they look good, but it's just kind of like, heart-wrenching ending to Halo 3 where Chief stuck out in space. I honestly wish they just would have ended there. I'm kind of glad Bungie parted there.
Yeah, that's still my favorite video game ending of all time. There's just nothing more badass than Master Chief waking up in Halo 1 out of cryo sleep, going through all of that action, killing countless Covenant, countless Flood, essentially winning the war, and then the last thing he says before going right back to where he started is, "Wake me when you need me." So perfect.
Yeah, like that is beautiful. I would have been fine if they would have scrapped the other video games and then just segued into a movie. But yeah, it was that ending was beautiful when you're just like racing time with the Warthog and everything is collapsing. Do you remember going through it on Legendary to get all the achievements?
I do.
And finding all the skulls and activating the skulls to get, Hayabusa armor and all of that.
Yeah, I forgot about all the armor sets and everything too.
Forget Andy wasting like 3 years of his life trying to get recon armor.
Yeah, that was hilarious because he worked so hard for so long, and it was practically, I think it was like 2 weeks later, they gave away recon to everyone for free, and he just worked his ass off to get it. Those were the glory days of multiplayer games because you actually had to earn everything. Nowadays, you could just pay for a loot box and you'd earn it in like 5 seconds. I remember having to work for all those sets, especially Hayabusa. That's what I wanted most because I thought it looked so cool. And I remember working for that.
And so did I was a huge fan of the Scout armor in Halo 3.
Was Scout the one that looked like it had a squirrel head for a helmet? I always thought it looked like a squirrel a little bit.
Well, you know what? Now I don't like it anymore, so thanks.
I was going to say, Halo 3, to this day, is still the game that I quote most out of all of them. I love quoting Arbiter most of all. I mean, Master Chief, of course, is classic. I still quote it all the time in casual conversation.
What's the one Arbiter quote we would always say?
I always say, "Words so easy." At the end. That's like his catchphrase throughout the whole trilogy. Or the second and third game, at least.
But yeah, dude. Halo 3. What it does it, dude, it's saddening. Like, it makes me so sad that, and it's over when you call me today and you're like, dude, we're gonna play something for the 10-year anniversary, and I'm like, oh, I totally don't have that game anymore.
Yeah, it was a little heartbreaking because I was looking so forward to that possibility, but one day I know we'll play again on split screen or something somewhere.
Oh, we will. We'll make it, in fact, that has to be a requirement for, like, my bachelor party.
Oh, of course.
Playing Halo 3.
Definitely.
I don't know where we're going to do the bachelor party at, but we're going to bring out the Rock Band 2 and the Halo 3, and it's going to be great.
at least Halo 3 lives on through, one, the Master Chief Collection, and now it's backwards compatible on Xbox Live, or on Xbox One, so at least it's not completely dead, and there are still those out there who cherish it for what it is.
Halo 3, I literally can't believe it's been 10 years. I mean, honestly, out of those 10 years, we played it for, what, 8.5?
At least, yeah, straight 8.5, and then sporadically after that for at least the last 2 years.
Exactly, like, just knowing you played a video game for 8 years, and that's the thing, is it's not like we played, like, a few times, like, 7 or 8 months for the following years after that. Like, it was always at least weekly with me and you.
Never forget it, and it'll probably always be the game I played most, because, you know, the older we get, the harder it is to just sit down and play a game for hours on end, so I'll cherish those memories forever, my friend.
I could not agree more. And that to me, because of this whole conversation we've had and the memories that I hold with Halo 3, will forever be my favorite video game. No matter how crazy and what happens in our life, Halo 3 will hold, like, this nostalgic memories that, like, nothing can, like, ruin. And nobody can say it has nothing to do with graphics, has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with a point in our life that was just so awesome.
I wish we could go back, but, you know, life goes on. But I trust
that's right.
We will reunite in some version of Halo 3 down the road in the near future. Well, Zachary, I can't thank you enough for your time, and it was great reminiscing on 10 years of Halo 3 with you, my friend.
Absolutely. There's nothing else I'd rather talk about with you, G-Dog Bilson. It's been a pleasure, and it's nice reminiscing on some of the nostalgia of my favorite game ever. But thanks for having me today, and I'll talk with It's Obvious real soon.
Amen, brother. I look forward to it. You have a good evening.
You as well, my friend. See ya.
See ya.